Hey everyone, it's the Chef. Welcome back to Empirical Sahara, our arid African desert themed zoo. The last time we played, we decorated up the Addax habitat, and I've done a little bit of work between then and now because there were a couple things that I wasn't super happy with. The first thing that I did is these light poles weren't evenly spaced, and in fact, this one is way higher than its friends, which also needs to get changed. There we go. So I wasn't happy that these weren't evenly spaced, so they are now evenly spaced, where we go light pole, blank post, info board, blank post, light pole, all the way around this exhibit. And that just has it looking a little bit more consistent. Second, I redid the roof. This was incredibly tedious and probably took me 2 hours, something like that. So as much as I said I didn't really want to do off-camera work and I wanted to do as much detailing as possible, really it was just a giant time sink. And also spent most of our money. We're down to $540 now. But this entire thing is just made out of primitive rectangles because they're flexicolor. So I got rid of all the old plaster. I replaced it with a bunch of primitive rectangles. I put a little bit of trim on. And I left the back exposed like this because I actually think it looks kind of nice. What are you? You're not supposed to be poking out. There we go. Because I think it actually looks kind of nice with the metal. It looks like a little bit of a different building from the back. And I think that's neat. So I left it. I'll slide this up a bit. Obviously, there's a couple places that I missed here. Guests could see this. So obviously we can't just leave that. We can't have guests knowing that this is all just a facade. There's a couple things I still want to do back here as well. I would like to bring this fence all the way around just to make this a little more continuous. So I'm just going to knock that out really quick before we get started on our project for the day. And I am also going to let the zoo run because we are we're getting dangerously low on money here and we need to rebuild our finances for the other projects that we want to take on. So we're going to have this wrap around. Nothing super fancy here. But we're just going to have this continue around a little bit. Maybe get it to hook up into the building itself if we can find a good opportunity to do so. If we slide this pillar over, I think that's probably fine. So it's a little unfortunate that it's in front of the window, but, you know, these imperfections exist sometimes, and that's okay. And then along this side, we'll keep this moving out. Maybe not quite that far out. And then we'll have one more that goes out to about here, where it meets the staff bed. And then I wonder if there's like a no entry sign or something that I can use. No. It would be under... Where's the do not disturb sign? Is that actually a facility? It is actually a facility. Hey, given that the Addax are actually kind of shy, maybe I should give them a little do not disturb. Like, even though it's through one-way glass. Doesn't hurt to have a little reminder. And then could I get a security... I want like a no entry security sign, but it doesn't look like one exists. So we'll just leave that. And then the last thing that I want to put in is a little bit of theming here in this spot. So give me desert in Africa. Give me plants only. Sort by price ascending. Give me random rotation and turn angle snap off. We'll have a little bit of nitraria bush. Have a little bit of drin grass. We can put a larger, like more theme-oriented tree back here. It's not actually in the habitat, so it's not going to make the Addax irritated. And we can have a bit more of like a display back here. That is way too big though. Maybe just a little more grass. And then I'll creep along the back here. Put some dry grass in here as well. And then some small rock work in front. Really maybe just like some cladding. Cladding here, here, and here, and then like a slightly taller rock. Just to make it look like there's something happening over here. There. That fills that space in rather nicely. And then I'd also like to get guest education in here as well. We'll set up some animal talk points. I'm tempted to put the animal talk points back here because it's a quick trip, but I also think it would be fun if the animal talk point could throw food. But if you put an animal talk point on this path, it's going to get so busy. And I don't want it to become too clogged. So I do think the best place for the animal talks is going to be back here. This is going to be Addax, animal talk. Species assigned is going to be Addax. Food throw path is blocked, that's fine. You can be in February. And then how about we give you the Saharan Oasis Sun? And we'll also want to match your colors. 783 FO4. That's you. What's the other one? BCA 27C. It looks like you. It's you. And then what's the third color? How did you change? There you go. Third color is E6E5CD. That one. So these are your three colors to play with. I think I would like you to be the... Well, no, that looks bad. That looks fine. Alright, I'm pretty sure that's close to our original. I guess we can't change the color of this wood. But that's fine. That'll work. And then we need to add you to our work zone. Staff work zones. This will be... I guess this would be animal care. It's not technically animal care, but I'm going to include the animal talks in the animal care zone because it's where things are going to be happening. So I will happily take an extra $1,000. We are up to 5,400 already, and we've only gone to April. That is a great sign for the long-term financial viability of the zoo. Vet research is complete. That should be our last research for the Addax. What did we get out of that? I think we got a veggie jelly cake. And how is your food enrichment doing over here? Low. So I could give you a veggie jelly cake. I could also give you a melon feeder. And we did leave space for them over here. So you should be able to slide this in like right here. You're going to need to put a path down to get it to not deform the terrain though. Or is there just a better place where you could put it? You know what? You can just have it laying out in the middle of the habitat. Apparently there's also a grab ball there. How about here? That is accessible. Good. And that should be all of your food enrichment now? Yes. Alright. Lovely. So, since we're going to work on Scimitar-Horned Oryx today, let's move our vet over to Scimitar-Horned Oryx. And this is going to be the habitat that we work on. What happened to you? There you go. Weird. So, I would like... Oh, the other thing that I changed over here is I forgot the concrete was flexicolored. So, I painted it. And now it blends in with the terrain a bit better. I want these two exhibits to feel thematically consistent. Because they're similar animals that live in a similar area. At least as far as I know. Let's double check. Scimitar... Horned Oryx. Yeah, so they're kind of in the Sahel. And Addaxes are in virtually the same place. So I want them to be thematically consistent. I want them to look very similar. We're going to go into our Addax fence. We're going to grab you, duplicate you, slide you to about here. And then we're going to split you from that group. Like here. We're going to rename you to Scimitar-Horned Oryx fence. Is that what I called you? Front fence. Front. For the Scimitar-Horned Oryx fencing requirements, I assume it's going to be the same. Yeah, grade 2 over 4 feet. So we're going to do the same terrain work that we did over here. We're going to grab ourselves a 2-meter pole. Any of them will do. We're going to sink it down into the ground until just the top is poking up. And then I don't actually think I need to use the wedge tool here. I can just use the push tool. And I can delete this fence, because we're not going to be able to do any terrain work until that's gone. In fact, all of this is probably going to have to go. Let's just get all of it gone now. We are now in you can't unpause the game territory. But that's okay. We're going to drop you down until we're at the bottom of the stick. Right about there should be fine. And then we're going to flatten along here. This is going to be rock work, so I'm not super worried about that. Flat all the way around this. And up to about here. And then that also is going to be rock work. We will smooth out some of the stuff that we've done here. This actually looks really low over here. I think you need to go a little deeper. And then maybe smooth here. So it's got a bit more of a natural job. And then that's also looking too shallow, so let's bring that down a little bit. And then this is also looking too shallow. That looks good. Doesn't need to be exact, it just needs to be good enough to keep them inside. We will use the same concrete wall that we used over on the other side. Slide you to about here, I would say, and then turn random rotation off. You'll want this one to stay consistent. This also still doesn't look like 2 meters. This is 4 meters tall, which means you want about half of it to be underground. I think you need to be about there. That's smooth. Let's see how that does. And we're going to duplicate, slide this across. This is going to be painfully expensive. Each of these costs 40. We don't want it to be purely flat. We want to put a couple little wiggles in it. This makes things look a bit more dynamic. Follows the path a little bit more closely. And it doesn't have to be any kind of exact science. You can just freehand it. I don't think these would really be the kind of thing that you would measure out geometrically to exact angles if you were worried about putting them in a real zoom. Not that we're necessarily striving for realism here. But a little bit of imperfection can be the point. And it can give you something to build around that's interesting. We've got a big old corner here. We're gonna have to turn this real sharp to keep any earth from poking through. We'll just keep sliding you around. I think I could do that a little better. Yeah, we'll curve out a little bit here to follow the path, but it's mostly a straight shot for the rest of this. Go out a little bit here, and then we can turn back in. Just adding that little bit of visual interest. Turn in one more. And a few straight pieces. And then we'll have it kind of wrap back in on itself here at the end, where it's going to lead into the rock wall. That is also going to help mask the staff entry point. So that set us back about $1,500. But it looks pretty good. I wish that this was a little less straight, but I like how wiggly it is over on this side. I don't know that I really want to change it, though. And then over here, just do the same thing. Roll you back a little bit. Have you meet up with the eventual rock wall in a more productive way. Something like that. And then we'll take all of this, Not you, and not you, and not you. We'll put it all into a group. We will call this Scimitar-Horned Oryx retaining wall. Your color over here is 9F8 to 35C. I'd like to select this whole thing if you don't mind. There we go. 9F8 35C. Looks like it blends in quite nicely. And then I can soften the back of this. We don't need to do this, but it will help roughen up the bottom edge a little bit. Make it look a little less natural. Everything on the top we're going to mask with either rocks or mulch, depending. And then we can go ahead and put our null barrier back. So over here, this is going to be very rock heavy. Let's grab our cladding. I have a bigger cladding. Stick to 2x2. Sink it down a bit so it's just underneath the retaining wall. Spin it around a little bit every once in a while. Give it a couple splashes of red color. Pull this back up a bit. And then this seems like a decent spot to transition into a little bit of mulch. But before we do that, let's just grab like this as a group. Slide it around to a few other places here so we don't have to do a ton of rockwork placement. Maybe not that high. Probably a little bit of rock here. And have some more over here. I actually don't really mind that you're encroaching onto the path. That's actually kind of cool. And put one over here. Maybe even move it down a little bit. And then obviously we'll have a bunch at the end where it merges into a bunch of rocks. Like big rocks. Check for anywhere that it's poking through the retaining wall and clean those up. Yeah, all looks good. So let's go grab our mulch. I think a 2x2 square should be fine here. And again, we'll just slide it along. Not the most desert thing ever to be using like dark brown loamy soil, but it's better than just having nothing in this gap except a giant pit. So we'll go with it. Doesn't look horrible. I think you can get away with that. This does look horrible, though. Get it up above that ugly diagonal. There you go. A little bit of spilled soil isn't that bad either. And I'll gradually keep bringing you down, because the path itself actually goes down a little bit here. Okay. Over here we've got a big long stretch. That filled in. The fact that that is just a continuous line is going to bother me, but we can hide it with plants. And then just one more gap to go. Alright. Good. Let's go ahead and fit our null barriers in at this point. And I want these to stay generally inside the retaining wall, because I don't want the Scimitar-Horned Oryxes to get mad that there's a ton of plants up against the retaining wall. We'll also make sure that it hugs these curves nice and tight, because I also don't want any animals getting themselves into a position where they've escaped the null barrier, because then guests are going to think they actually escaped for real. Which, speaking of, I think while I was detailing that Addax habitat, there's actually a bit of null barrier I need to move. So I'm gonna go check on that really quick. Alright, and then you're free. For now, go ahead and connect back into this. Null barrier? There we go. It was, yeah, here. See? So there's a gap in this barrier right here, and if an Addax wanders over here, it makes the guests think that the Addax has escaped. So we can't have that. And we just need to do a little bit of adjustment to get the habitat to work correctly. We'll have you follow the dimensions of the Addax house, and then plug back into the barrier. That takes care of that. Let's go ahead and put in our rock. And I could just copy this rockwork, but I'd actually, first of all, I need this rock. I need to split that group. I need all of you to be in a separate group in case I want to move you around separately. So the easiest way to do that is going to be to say split this from group, advanced move it, drag it up, enter group edit, select U3, split from group, select U3, move you up so that you kind of plug into the bottom of this rockwork. And then go select you, merge, and then move you back up. And now that is a coherent rock group again. I'll call that Addax Rock Wall 2. Neat. Okay. So rather than just grabbing one of those, I'm just going to make a third bespoke rock pile. And then once we have 3 bespoke rock piles, we can probably copy off of those. But I don't want to just make one. because it might be possible to tell that they're similar. I'd rather make 3 or 4. It makes it harder to tell that they're all the same. And I definitely don't want to add you to Addax Rockwall. So turn your random rotation on. You can adjust your random rotation if you need to. But we'll have this rock pile go like this. I want to leave a little space in the middle to maybe put a very small little garden. And then this one is going to extend out a bit further. It's going to go to about here. If I can just get you to rotate a bit. There we go. And then you're going to follow that line. And then you're going to collapse back into where the fence is. And we'll have a little, like, nature scene as well. Over in here. So take all of this, make it a group. Then we're going to add some dimension to it. Get a second set of rocks out. Start stacking them. Generally following the shape that we set down previously. Maybe rotating every once in a while when it's necessary. Just to get it to conform to the overall landscape. Please stop selecting that rotator. And have you swing in like this. And we do need this side to be a little taller, because this is also serving as fence to keep Addax in. Or Scimitar-Horned Oryx in. So we need to make a bit of a pile there. And then we can also do a bit of a pile on the other side. It comes over to about here. And then we can do one more that comes up to about here. And that's generally tall enough to keep visitors' eyes prying in here. So the last thing that we need to do is just add a little bit of trim on the inside to clean up the way that this join looks. And we'll see how good a Scimitar-Horned Oryx is at climbing. Because some of these look like they would be fairly easy to scale for an animal. We'll see if the Scimitar-Horned Oryx is that animal. And then we'll maybe have one big rock here that contributes a bit of dimension. So that looks like a fairly good rock. That fence is fine. Then the other thing that you'll want to do is replace, well, move that section of fence in here, and then replace it out to about there with something that is not see-through. You I can lower a bit. You I would like to be a null barrier. Drop you down. You down. You don't actually need to be that high. So guests won't try to look through that now, because it obscures their sight. We can go ahead and start smoothing inwards here now. Giving them a nice gradual ramp. You can also play around with the terrain a little bit. Make it look like these are paths that are worn into the habitat a little bit. And then I want a little bit of a mountain in the front, because we'll do like some big rock work up front. Pull this down. This is going to be another one of their trails in here if they need one. It's looking really steep. Crank your smoother up a bit. I don't want it to be like a mountain. Just shift a little bit more of that earth. And then this is starting to look okay. Got a nice little bit of variation to the landscape here. Yeah, we just want to unsettle things a bit to make it a little more visually dynamic to look at. And then you also need rock work. So let's test this theory. Let's enter group mode here. And just grab some of these pre-existing rocks. And duplicate them. Slide them over here. See if you can get this to fit in relatively nicely. Yeah, that'll work. That actually seems great. I want to do a little bit on the back of it. I think that could stand to be improved. And then I also want to split this from its broader group. Split you. Select all of you. Oh, you're already a group. Yeah, no, you're fine. Did you get all of it? Yeah. Okay. So you sit here. Add a few more into the back. It's giving it a bit more of a terraced look. So that it's not just like a flat wall of rock on the back. Something like that should do fairly nicely. We can decorate that up in a little bit. Whatever barriers, pull you back to here. Everything else should be fine. Are you now at the point where you can unpause? I think so. So let's take a look at your habitat traversability. There's a couple places that you can't really get to, like here, and that's just because it's steep. But I think that's fine. I think I'm okay with that. So now that that's done, we can go ahead and start putting in fence. I'll start you about here, coming out from the rock. And we'll let the simulation run for a bit, so that we can build up a little extra money. And again, don't need this to be exact. The fact that it's not perfectly sliding when we duplicate is a-okay. Because we want to make little micro adjustments to this thing every time we place it. Make it look like it's following the path a little bit more. think we'll pause around August, maybe. Because then I would start to worry about getting close to year 4. Obviously not ready for year 4 yet. But we should have a little bit of time to farm up some money here. Coming around to the big corner. Not quite. There you go. That looks good enough. And if I have any leftover money, what I would really like to do is get the food court in over in this corner of the zoo. Because I think by the time guests get over here, they're going to be a little hungry. They're going to be a little thirsty. They might need to use the bathroom. So we'll have a little rest stop for them. Before they continue on their travels to see the fennec fox and the sand cat. Which are the next exhibits that are going to be coming up. We also still need to buy a fennec fox. Or several. And I think that would be a decent use of our money. Because it would get some more coming in. Alright, this one's a little scuffed. But I think what we can do here is we can just slide you over. And we'll have a bit of a short ending to the rail on that side. So that's railing in. Combine all of these into a group so that we can easily manage it later. This is Scimitar-Horned Oryx front fence. Good. Exactly what that is. Yeah, we're getting good traffic down here now. That's great news. Low on cash? I don't necessarily agree with that. Also, people are mad. Low happiness, low energy, low hunger, low thirst. Are our lines too long over here? Oh, one of those is not getting manned. How many vendors do I have? Only 2. Yeah, you need, like, at least 2 more. Well, probably exactly 2 more. Alright. You, Benny Wiggins, you work in Entrance Plaza Guest Services now, and you, Aubrey Gooch, you also work in, I'm sorry about your name, by the way, Entrance Plaza Guest Services. I need you to make sure those stalls keep running, and then let's also just do a general survey of workloads right now. We have a little bit of money that we can kick at this. Our keepers are very busy. One of our mechanics is very busy. Our vet is very busy. Everybody else looks okay. Let's get a second keeper. And even though it's going to be a lot of money, let's get a second vet as well. Because then I can have someone dedicated to being a vet. And I can also have someone dedicated to research. And then I'm not going to have to worry about that. So this is looking good. Since we're getting towards nightfall, let's go ahead and start putting our lights in. Our schema is the first pole receives a light. Yeah, the very first pole in order receives a light. You can position snap for these. We're going to rotate you a little bit. We're going to sink you in until you are just barely not sticking out of this post. Not sure why position snap didn't do that automatically. We're also going to need to turn random rotation off. Stop that. So it's light, blank, board, blank, light. Next light will go here. Slide you around. Blank, board, blank, light. About here. Blank, board, blank, light here. And by some miracle, blank, board, blank, even though it's a little squished, there's a light here. So that's going to help us see what we're doing once it gets dark. All of these can go. No longer necessary. I'll go ahead and copy these over. You're going to go right in here. Rotate you a little bit. That looks centered. Raise you up. Get the appropriate image on the screen. Looking for wide Scimitar-Horned Oryx. There it is. And now I can sink you down to about here, I think is roughly where you go. How high do you come up on these posts? Oh, much lower. There's part of the post actually sticking out over the top. Yeah, it's like that. All right. And then we can grab you, duplicate an advanced move, blank light, blank info. Center it and then rotate it a bit. This one needs to move down a little bit because the path is higher here. I like that it kind of tilts up towards the oryxes. That's really cool. Completely unintentional, but it's also one of those things where, you know, if you're a perfectionist about placing stuff, you might notice the landscape difference and be like, oh, that can't happen there. But if you sketch out the path network first, you're just kind of beholden to those weird little imperfections that crop up. And then this will be last board. You can come up just a little bit. Now, we can also get these out of here. No, not you. These can go. I want to replace them with the more appropriately colored ones. And we'll just have one of them next to each info board. So that people who learn about the plight of the Scimitar-Horned Oryx can immediately give us money to help keep taking care of them. We can also get rid of these. Come back and rework these a little bit later, because you do still need a house. We're going to need to get your house figured out today as well. So that's your info in. And then we can start doing foliage. So these are frankincense 2s. which I really like. I like that they've got this this V shape to them. Makes it really interesting to decorate with it. We'll do one here. We'll do one over here at the other end. That is rotated away from the light. Actually, that might be a 1. Yeah, we'll just do a smaller one over here. I want the leaves to extend out over the path because it'll grant just that little bit of shade as guests are walking through here. And then I want a big thing of like rock work at the front of this exhibit, but I want it to be flanked by some vegetation. So we're going to do big frankincense tree here. And then we're going to do medium frankincense tree here. And you're going to have like a vista that you can look out in this spot. Because like this is the premium viewing for the Scimitar-Horned Oryx as far as I'm concerned. All of this is going to be hidden by their shelter. And there's also going to be a big rock front that comes up here. And I want to make it climbable for them so that they can actually step up on it, which means that we're going to have to play a lot with the height of rocks. But we can persevere. I also don't like that this is like a flat. Let's just roughen it up a little bit. No lines, only curves. Okay. And then next you're going to have to put your foliage selections in. And for doing that, I may just copy some of these wholesale. And then add them later. So like you, we want this to be a little nature scene. You can sit here. You can rotate this around and have this sit like here. And that continues through on the other side. Still in an arid habitat, so we don't want to go crazy with these. But we just want a little decor to fill in. And can I get like a very small rock? Yes, that's perfect. I want just a hint of a little rock garden here. Then let's grab just half of this. Rotate it. Bring it to about here. Rotate it again, bring it to here. And then this is going to be where we have some big framing. Like you want to be taking your pictures here, your selfies. This is going to be a very big photo op spot. So we're going to get like a king protea or two in here. As a little bit of flower. But we just want this area to be kind of nicely framed in general. So we can go a little nuts on the vegetation. And then for the other spots in the habitat, I think we actually want them to be a little more sparse. So show me a spot that has like a dead nitraria bush. Yeah. Like you. We'll have this look a little more arid, because as you're moving down this path, you're getting into fennec fox and sandcat. And they're fairly arid. So we want this to start looking like it's getting a little more arid again. Decent. I don't love where you can see foliage poking through here, so let's cover it up with just a little grass. And we can turn random rotation back on here. We can also have just a little hint of like a rock poking out here. That helps to obscure some of it. And then we want a big king proteo. Do king proteo here. And then we'll get one that's a little taller. Move it up to about here. And then maybe a little bit of like aloe vera as well. So we got this nice little floral scene. Now, what year is it? July? Let's run to like September. Need to let money rebuild a little more. Now, I want to try and make a rock face that they can climb. So let's use some nice flat pieces here. And then add dimension to the bottom of it with the big rock pieces. We'll wrap these all the way around the bottom. So that it hides the natural end of the soil. Because that doesn't look very good. And then at the ends, we can have you come up a little bit. So something like that, vet research is done. Very important. Oryx 1. Then we're going to come in here, and this is the part that we want them to be able to traverse. So we're going to keep this part as flat as possible, while also building out the dimension of the rock underneath. So we're not going to do any vertical height movement on this one. This is only going to be horizontal. We're going to fill in some gaps along the bottom. It's probably bigger than I'd need it to be, but it looks like it's going to work in this case. We just want, yeah, it's going to be too big. We want the bottom of this to look more gradual. And I think that's just going to mean using smaller rocks. This would be an ideal spot for the aquatic faux rock piles. Those would do pretty much exactly what I want them to do here, but we don't have those. So we're stuck doing it by hand a little bit. Here's fine. And then I also want to do it over here. So we'll do a taller row here. And then we'll do a shorter row, like a row that's closer to the ground here. And then you could also wrap around here so that it looks like you join back up with this larger rock structure. Looking good. This looks a little too jumbled though. Let's see if we can clean this up a bit. We just want some longer horizontal rocks. A bit of this. A bit of this, and then especially here, down a little lower, to help with the transition into the ground. We want some of these. And I know it's a little off kilter now, but it's fine. Yeah. I think that helps with that merge. This should still be traversable for you. It is, but man, they hate it. They don't really like any height difference at all. Then push this down a little bit. And then smooth this. They really don't like height differences. Let that recalculate. I think that might be the best that we can do. And we can have it be kind of an implied hill by putting some taller rocks behind it. You're going to be stuck up there forever, I think. Yep. See ya. We can have it look a little... We can have it have some, like, implied height to it. If we make it look taller in the back. And the fact that they can never actually traverse up to it is fine. Yeah, so they've got a little bit of an Oryx mountain thing going on. They can walk around it in a loop. Kind of. I need to onboard them here a little bit. Good enough? Good enough. Yeah. Alright, so they can traverse all the way around this thing. And obviously this is where we're going to want to put our enrichment. They have access to a lot of things that the Addax also had access to. They have a scratching post. They can come up here and get their itch on. We can have a scarecrow feeder over here, and we can put some plants against the rock. Make it look like there's a little bit of natural water growth here. Natural water growth, natural water like cooling. Maybe this is in the shadow or something like that. Nothing big in here though. Excuse me. Who's protesting in here? Alright, we're gonna have to go solve that in a little bit. We can't afford to be losing that money. Who is protesting and why? Where are these picketers? They're mad about the dromedaries. What's wrong with the dromedaries? They've never gotten a drink? Okay, well, I can see that being a problem. Here. And then you don't need this. It's more things for a keeper to fill. So I guess it makes sense, because we're relatively light on keepers right now. Alright, so that's your little outcropping one. I'll give you a couple more plants up here. Want this to look a little, not overgrown per se, but I want it to look like a feature. I want it to be a spot of visual interest. So that's going to mean giving it a couple plants. How many plants do you actually want in here? They're so fine. They love it. Mechanic research is done. That's going to be Africa 2. You keep up your work on Africa. Zoo is low on cash. Didn't ask. What else do you guys need for enrichment in here? 100 out of 61 for toy enrichment. 10 out of 15 for food enrichment. We can have a second rock outcropping here. So we'll use the same strategy. We know that the flat part of the rock is going to be traversable. So we're just going to put a lot of flat rock down. And then to make it look a little more dynamic, we're going to push down around it. Make it look taller than it really is. And then we're also going to put tall rocks behind it. Make it look taller than it really is. And this also is nice because it hides the keeper gate. And we could even have it be an extension of this rock wall. If we're going to do that, I'm actually going to taper it downwards as it gets closer to the ground, while still leaving a bit of space for the Addax to actually clamber, the Scimitar-Horned Oryx to actually clamber up here. I need to remember, we're not on the Addax exhibit anymore. Addax is done. Addax is old news. So a little something like that would be where I could give you more food enrichment. About a hanging grazing feeder. Can come up and nibble on this. I'll give you the same little nature treatment over here. No, not the rock. No, not the rock. The grass. Alright, I'll make it myself. Give me dried grass large. No, give me dried grass medium. I don't want to overpopulate the exhibit with plants for the animals to see as part of their habitat. And then down here in this little gully, I think we put a lot of plants. This would collect rainwater. It's probably in shade most of the time. I think there would be a lot of vegetation here. Because desert doesn't mean like there's no plants. It just means a lot of your rainfall is seasonal, and a lot of your plants need to be relatively hardy. So you can have a nibble on that. You're good on food enrichment and toy enrichment. I do want to push your food enrichment a little higher. And we saved ourselves the space for a second rock outcropping over here. So we'll plug that in. Let's get the height right. So this one, they'll be at like eye level with the guests, which is cool. I'll just copy you straight down. Slide you back to about here. This is the way that they're actually going to get onto this rock platform. And then we slide this out. We make it a little taller in the middle. Then we rotate it. And we bring the height back down on this side. And then we push this little nub in just a tiny bit. And over here is where we're going to give them... what do you still need? Probably still more food enrichment, if I had to guess. 20 out of 15. Yeah, you need one more food enrichment. We'll give you this yummy veggie jelly cake out here at the end, and then we'll also give you your drinking pool over here in the shade. And I'm going to need a path thing. So that it does not deform the landscape. There we go. Is that traversable for you? This is questionable. Let's move you to where you will definitely be reachable. This is also questionable. But you are actually reachable there. So a couple more things to do here. Let's drop a few rocks in like this to soften this hard rock edge. Blend it into the terrain a little more naturally. This is an interesting piece. I actually like this one a lot. It's got that nice diagonal motion to it. And then maybe just give me like one in here. Slide you around a little bit until you fit nicely in there. Okay. I'll give you a couple more bits of greenery over here. As a spot that gives out water, this would be a fairly coveted location in the habitat for both plants and animals. And then maybe a little bit of greenery along here as well, since you'd be a little bit in shadow with all these tall rocks next to you. And I think that'll about do it. So the middle of the habitat isn't like super interesting, and I can actually get rid of this now. This doesn't need to be here. This doesn't need to be here. How are your needs doing? 30 out of 15, 100 out of 61. Your habitat you have issues with. Your terrain isn't quite right. You need long grass. Wow, okay. I didn't know that you were interested in long grass. I mean, I know where it's gonna go. It's gonna go in and around here. In and around here a bit. Definitely over here. Bit of it over here. Bit of it over here. And then we'll just hide the rest against the wall. And you still need more. Alright, we'll hide the rest in your habitat, in your eventual shelter then. Now you're happy with it. You also want a bit of soil. And you don't care how much sand is in here. So you can make some little like walking trails for you. Some Oryx desire paths. Something like that. Alright, looking good. Let's let our money rebuild. We'll maybe go out to about November, and I've got extreme concerns about my ability to afford a hard shelter for you right now. I don't think we've made as much money as we were hoping that we did this year. I mean, making 10k a year is really good, but we are spending way more than 10k a year right now. I may need to give you a really simple habitat hard shelter and then improve on it next time. Now, Wall is about to have offspring. I don't want animal populations to get out of control here. So I think one birth is going to be enough, and we'll stick the male camel on contraceptives. Oh my god, he jumped! They can jump. Oh, that's perfect. They're going to be jumping all over the place on these rock terraces. Do it again. Do it again. Or just eat your cake. I would be so fine with either of those. Oh, they love it, man. They love it. Now, Wallace had offspring. Let's go take a look at that. It's all happening. tiny baby camel in tiny sad camel exhibit that's received no love yet. Don't worry, little friend. We'll help you eventually. I really don't like how much grass they need. I'd rather not have a bunch of this bee grass. Maybe we do this instead. I want to reconfigure that a little bit. Pick the spots in between their desire paths. And give me maximum grass. Because I'd rather have this be looking like rock than having long grass. And then take me to 10%. How much of this can I do? I just want to make the long blades of grass go away. I don't think I can abide that. Okay, actually, that looks really good. I'd say that's a success. We can even do it here a bit, and then under their hard shelter is just going to be a ton of long grass. And that's where we're going to sneak it in for the overall habitat. Why is nobody down over at this corner? Is it because you get too thirsty? Too hungry, too thirsty? Getting hungry, getting thirsty. Can I take out another loan? We've barely paid anything on the current one. We're probably financially stable enough to do it. Honestly, we could take out the 10K. Does my income include loan income? No. We legitimately make $10,000 a year. So we could definitely afford another loan. This only costs us about $3,000. And then we could build the shelter, and we could get concessions in over here. Yeah. Yeah, we might do that. We just might. Alright, let's do it. Because then I can afford everything I want. 22. Okay. I don't want to make a super complicated shelter. I think this shelter was fine. If anything, it probably turned out to be a little too complicated for my tastes. So for the Scimitar-Horned Oryxes, I think we're going to make something even simpler. Also, I'm not sure why you're grass. You shouldn't be grass. Nor should you. I want this to be sand up top. Is that still okay with your ratios for your terrain? Just barely, yeah. Also, man, we have so much navigable land area in here. That's great. We can get many more Scimitar-Horned Oryxes in here. So for shelter, let's start with a really quick breeze block grid sketch. You can join in here. Don't angle snap yet, actually. To simplify our lives, let's go square with the fence. Roughly. Doesn't need to be exactly square. But we'll do something like that. None of this we need guests to be able to see through. We're going to have window here, here, and probably here. You're thinking you want to make something complicated, aren't you? Yup. Can't stop me. I can't stop making angled buildings. Please send help. I'll put a flat roof on this one, and that's going to simplify a lot of it. So you can go here. You can go here. And then you can go here. And then you're going to come back to about here. And then you are going to have window, 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 wall here. And then you'll need you don't actually even need that to be a grid. This you can do with wall panels. I want to square it off of you. Do not position snap, do not random rotation. Actually, position snap. Yeah. So we're going to drop you to about here. We're going to angle snap you. It's a big shelter. It's probably bigger than it needs to be, but no going back now. It's not quite joined up. There you go. Extend you past. That'll do. It's not exactly what I was looking for, but it'll do. So then you're gonna slide this way. And then we're gonna move you back to here. And we're gonna move you back to here. So that we get a nice clean corner. Above this layer is plaster. So we're going to take all of these. I actually don't know if this will work, but it'll be fun to try. Duplicate it. Yeah, it's not gonna work. All right, we'll have to do one at a time then. Duplicate you here. Move up. Now we go to plaster. Give me a 4x4 plaster wall panel. Align it on the outside. Slide this along. Same thing here. Duplicate. Plaster. Scooch it in just a little bit. Match the height. And then match the angle. This one is now going to be on the same quote-unquote grid as your wall. And this one, once you rotate it 90 degrees, it's going to be on the same quote-unquote grid as the rest of your wall. So you can go to about here. Slide your trim over. Actually, slide your trim all the way through because the trim runs all the way along the bottom. This could be grid. I was gonna say it doesn't really matter. It does, because those aren't exactly even. Why? I don't know. But you should be like that. And it's because you're not exactly the right rotation. I hope that doesn't come back to screw us. Oh no, it won't. It's actually fine, because we can snap plaster to this grid. It is not exactly centered, though. We're going to have to snap rotation. Snap and snap rotation. That's the snap that I'm looking for. Slide you down here. Match your height. Slide this down over here. This is roughly where viewing gallery is going to kick in. And that's roughly where it's going to kick out. It's not that much bigger than the Addax building, I guess. Spin you around. You're gonna live right about here. You're gonna live here. You're gonna need to snap onto the grid. This one can have a bit of a messy join, because I think we're gonna cover it up with a pillar internally. You come out to like here. And then just one more. You'll come to here. Up to about there. And over to about there. That's basic framing done. Let's come over here and copy the viewing gallery. I would like to edit this building, please. May I please have that piece of glass, all of this trim. And then can I duplicate that, move it out here, and work on it a little bit. I'm also seeing that there's a gap here and it's annoying me. There we go. So you now need to get split from the rest of your friends. And then I need to make some adjustments to you. This needs to slide in. And this isn't necessary. And then this is our viewing gallery. We can now duplicate this. Not duplicate, we can move this. Also, let's name it. Hard shelter gallery. We'll just drag you over here. Rotate you around so the one-way glass is looking the right way. Plug you in here. Plug you in here. And then we can put a pillar in the middle. And that'll look fun. This is just a lot of empty wall, isn't it? It is. It is. Lord forgive me, I'm going back in. Make a diagonal with this. Yeah, just drag this thing right over. And then square it off there. I think that's much more sane. It also buys us extra space back here if we need to expand facilities for whatever reason. But primarily it just makes this whole shelter much less chunky. So duplicate here. Delete here. Get your breeze block back out. And then get these to line up flush. Close enough. We can hide that little overlap. That's not a huge deal. So now you're going to need plaster. First of all, you can just duplicate this one. And actually, these should be a perfect 90. So if you spin like this, it should work. Yeah, looks like it does. That's a good sign that we've done this correctly. Not about there, and then here you're gonna need probably 1x4 strips. So grab this plaster, duplicate. Grab the 1x4. And start sitting it flush. And then what did you use on top? Another 1x4 probably? Yeah, it looks like it. We'll make the front of this slightly taller. Just make our lives a little easier later. Does it also need to come out this far? Again, not really. Let's just start reducing the footprint of this thing. I just think it's way bigger than it needs to be. Like, what if it only comes out to there? We can just continue our rock work over the mask bet. And slide this over. You actually come out just a little too far. Which means you can adjust our trim a little bit here. Because we want the trim to come through. In fact, I want more trim to come through. I want these to feel like big chunky windows rather than just like hints of wood. That's better. That's also just a much more reasonable size for that habitat, I think. For that hard shelter. So get rid of these, adjust this ever so slightly. Adjust this ever so slightly. And then I don't want it to look super grand. Well, first of all, you can also change these null variables. Move this guy to here. I'm going to replace that chain link fence with corrugated. And then I'm also going to bring some more of these rocks over. To mask it. I don't want guests trying to look through it at that spot. Well, something like that. Maybe duplicate you. Spin you a bit. Pull you up just a little bit more. I think it's fine that a little bit of it pokes inside. That's okay. So what I can do here... First of all, I can add a bunch of long grass underneath this rock. Second, I can add long grass underneath this rock. Add it in a bunch of places where it won't show. Because I want to get rid of it here. Oh, not that's right. Give me soil light at 100. And then give me grass long at like 20. Something like that. And get rid of all these rock boundaries as well. That was our marker for where that habitat was going to go. We don't really need it. How you feeling about your train? Still great. Lovely news. Fantastic hearing that. Let's fix the rest of these barriers up now. All of this can be null. We're going to slide you to here. You to here. You to here. And you to here. So that's our basic foundation. We can start putting some pillars in now. On this, I used 4x4s of breeze block columns. Breeze block. Some of these bad boys. Breeze block thick column. And I can move these around to where they need to go. We're going to have one here to separate these two viewing galleries, but I need to move these out of the way first. You go over there. You go over here. So that when I move this thing over, I know where I need to put you back. One of you is going to go here, which is not exactly where the corner of the building is, but it's where we're going to pretend the corner of the building is. Well, no. You can actually put it where the corner of the building is, and then you can pull the rocks back a bit. Like, that's actually fine. Then we'll swing these around to the front. We'll have one here that covers up that joint in a nice way. Okay, so that's, you know, we should have one more along this back wall. I'll actually just grab you, pull you directly back here. So, I don't want to have one giant flat roof. I want to have two slightly different elevations of roofs to create visual interest. I'm going to take these 4 pillars. Going to move them to about here. And for each one of them, I'm going to slide them back down. Until they mostly line up with where they need to go. We'll bring the plaster walls up accordingly. To about there, maybe. I'm going to need the world's thinnest strip of plaster to go across the top of that thing. I don't actually think it exists. So this is going to have to do. I guess what I can do instead is I can take you, and I can sink you down by 1. I think that's still traversable for keepers. And then this back wall. So for the roof, corrugated plastic roof 1 meter flat. Add it to this grid. I want the stone columns to just barely poke out the top. And then for you, again, I want the stone columns to just barely point out the top. So we're going to go to a even smaller grid size. And then for this in particular, We're going to grab these and drop them down until they're on the same grid. Pull it across like that. And then for these, we're going to have to duplicate an advanced move and just join them at the corner. And that roughly is going to be the way that this looks. I might move this section of roof back a little bit. Not duplicate advanced move, just advanced move. It's going to make it easier to detail the plaster trim to not have to fiddle with that. And then same thing here as well. Just slide you in a little bit so that I have access to the plaster. And then for actually detailing the plaster, we'll just go and grab one of these detail segments over here. We will duplicate you, bring you over here, enter group edit mode, split that from the group. This is going to be hard shelter roof trim segment. And then we'll just go ahead and slide this into position. Nothing super fancy here. We also need to change the color of the plaster so that it matches with this trim, but we'll do that. And we slide you over. Slide you over. I could rotate these. I actually don't remember why they're this thin on this side, but easy come, easy go, I guess. That go. And you know what else? I don't actually mind that that overhangs. In fact, I may memorialize that as part of the design. Don't angle snap that, or do angle snap that though. I actually think that overhang is really cool. I didn't intend for it to be there, but it adds some nice shape to the build overall. Although I am finding that I think I need to move this so that it's centered in these pillars. Please stop zooming so aggressively. I think you go here. And then you go here. Because I would like to have space on the sides of these for info boards. Just want to leave myself a bit of room. And then you just continue on down here. Grab your section of trim. I really like how this turned out. Oh, I really like how it turned out. I kind of wish I had the angled roof over here, but I also don't mind these two buildings being different. Like, slightly different. I think it just makes it more interesting. So you'll trim along here. Need to adjust you ever so slightly so that you tuck behind the stone. And it is going to annoy you that those are poking out, so fix it now. Oh, that moves the whole thing. There you go. Better? Yeah, better. Change these colors. Change these colors. Flat roofs, man. What a life hack. That's one building done. You have trim on the bottom of these? Oh, you do have trim on the bottom of those. That's okay, I can add it in a little later. Excuse me. I actually don't think we need that much plaster. Yeah, you don't. Saves you a little bit of money. Grab trim. Pull it up here. Get it to play nice with this roof. Something like that. Looks good. And you can keep pulling it along here. Along the back. Then you are going to need something slightly more custom for the gap. But you can handle that. What you're going to need for the gap is... Do you have a template for one? I guess. Like, you have this. This should do fairly well. Actually not, it's hideous. You have this, I guess. Duplicate this. Split it from its root. Move it over here. Duplicate it down. And then slide it over. angle a little more agreeable. And then you're going to want a couple of vents over here. Because this would be the portion of the habitat that is dealing with, like, getting rid of all the heat that's rising to the top of it. Something like that. I'll let the plaster on the sides. What's your problem? There is another one back there. You can go. You harboring another one? You are. Oh, and you missed trim over here. A nice short. Alright, so just a little bit of extra detailing is left. What am I using for the trim around the bottom of these? A big plank or a small? Big plank. Paint a beam square. So that's the same as you. But just recessed further into the wall. Like this. And I don't mind that you come out a little bit in front of that window. Again, it adds dimension. I think buildings that are perfectly flat on every surface are just a little boring. So when we have the opportunity, it's nice to add a little bit of gizmos here and there that actually give the thing some volume. Run this all the way along here. Angle snap that. Run this all the way along here. Also, you need to paint this plaster still. I'll do that when I'm done. Wrap around one more time. Alright, a little bit of trim. It's looking a little flat. I wonder if I can do something to dress that up a bit. This is fine because it's backstage. I don't mind how flat that looks. But I wonder if there's something that I can do to the front. This looks kind of Spartan. Overall, though, I think that's actually very nice. I do want to add one tiny little bit of decor, and that is painted beam. I'd like 1 meter, please. I want to add a little bit of, like, architecture prop wood to the top of these around where the trim is. Just to break up the look a bit visually. That'll be our nice dark wood. I'm not going to do this on every building, but I think this definitely lends a little bit of like African / Middle Eastern flair to the architecture of the building. And it's relatively unintrusive because we can hide all of it inside of the wall bank and in our roof detailing. So no one will ever know it's there. Good and good. Good and good. And I'm just going to do it on the top. So it helps set the top apart a bit from the bottom. Now the question is, how do I make this a little more interesting to look at? And I don't immediately know, and maybe it's okay. What other kinds of wall do I have, though? Wood is not going to be right. Maybe I could replace it with mud. How about mud? Mud wall panel 4x4. Just need something that has like a little bit of a different texture to it. And especially if I can dye mud, that would be great. But I don't think mud is flexicolor. It is flexicolor. Holy cow. Never mind. Maybe give it like a little bit of a lighter, sandier tone. See how that strikes you. Whoop. Pop right. There you go. And then give me mud wall 1x4. Yeah, that adds just like a little bit of texture to it. Actually, kind of like that. It looks kind of like stucco. Maybe I add that a few more places. Also, you're missing trim up here. Use the thin trim. Thick trim is just too much. Oh, you know what? You rotated this wall a little bit. You're going to want to borrow off of one of these to get the angle exactly right. It's painted beam thin, not round. Not round. What are you called? Plank thin painted. It should be there. Oh, no, it's not, because you're on walls. Blank, thin, painting. There you are. So we pull you down. Copy you across. Change your color. Let's have trim at the bottom too. And then take you back up. Rotate you a bit. Have you sit on top like that? Alright. I think that's Addax Hard Shelter done. I think it came out okay. It definitely came together faster than the Addax habitat. But it is visually appealing, and maybe I do the same thing that I did over here, where there's just this little part that juts out in front. I don't know. I'll think about it. Actually, the one thing I should do to keep these visually similar is move this thing over. So great, this is at the top. I do have some concern. Actually, I have concerns that keepers aren't going to be able to get in there with that thing there. Let's kill that idea for now. Now, let's make the outside of this building just a little more interesting. I wonder if I could get away. I don't want to get away with a giant tree in here. All needed. Let's do something a little smaller so it doesn't poke inside. We can also random rotate now. There's some creeping arid vegetation along there. Have a bit at this corner, big old dry bush. Have some over in this corner to help mask that this is where keepers come in. And then I can put all of your bedding in here. We need to... I don't think I need to false floor this. This is... I guess we'll see if keepers can fit in here or not. Nope. Oop, extra large, large, large. Extra large, medium, medium. That should be more than enough sleeping space for you. And I think that's going to be the Scimitar-Horned Oryx is done. 100s across the board. Can I see keeper traversability, though? Yeah, they can get everywhere they need to go. Alright. Have I forgot? Oh, I have forgotten one thing. I need to put my donation bins in the back here, and I also need to build this little area out. So we need facilities. We don't need facilities, we can duplicate. Here and here. We need a animal talk. That will go right here in the middle of the two windows. This is Scimitar-Horned Oryx talk. If this one's in February, will this one be in March, April, May, June, July, August? Stagger them so they're 6 years apart, or 6 months apart. Move a couple of these over. Okay, don't position snap rotation, don't random rotation. But do align to surface. You're still not really rotating how I'd like you to, but I think I can work with it. So just a little reminder to keep. Oryxes are shy animals. They don't necessarily want to hear your conversations. Actually, I may just put this in the middle here. Because then I could also have the metal sticking out, and I think that looks kind of cool. Like it's part of the trim. Then I'll need 2 more education boards. I think I am using the same design I'm using over here. It's just everything else is hidden in the wall. And you're going to come over here. How far down do you go? Just above the trim. So about like that. And then this one's going to have to come out a bit. We can build it into our path, our fence path. Because this is going to have to come around as well. So line it up with your sign. Yeah, exactly. So you at least know that you're starting from there. And then get rid of this. And then you can duplicate these around. Hello? Oh, no, no, no. Enter group edit mode. Just these 3, please. I would say that lines up pretty much perfectly. Super happy with that. And then we'll have another one over on this side. And I think this one's also going to like help to keep people off the path or off the plants. It's going to be very straight. And then we'll swing it around here. And I'm just going to have it join directly into the habitat. And it does poke through in a way that's relatively unappealing. Which is annoying. But I don't have a great idea for that, except for like hiding it with one small internal rock. We can just have like a small bit of cladding in here. That's only function is to mask the fact that we have an ugly join with the path. So you'd go here. We We can also kind of integrate it into this other bit that's poking in. There's just like a little bit of faux artificial rock work here, we'll say. And then this, again, we don't want it to look super overgrown. I haven't done much with century plants yet. We could do one of you. I think I can get away with a single date palm. And then like a small aloe vera or two. We'll use some things that we haven't used yet to give this section a little bit of visual distinctness. And then we'll have some big red rocks as like some centerpieces. Where's the one I'm looking for? You? Maybe, actually. Have one big red rock as a centerpiece. Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. And then we'll just put a little one at the base. And then we have to do this section. So for this, I want tall rock wall. I know that there is like a game mechanics range to staff buildings, but I don't even want them visible from the path. So we're going to construct a large artificial rock wall. I'm going to grab just a small section of this fence. Split it from the rest of its group. And then slide it over here to about here, let's say. And then we'll also put its cladding underneath it. Use big cladding? Yeah, I'll use big cladding. So you'll just see a hint of a suggestion that there's like a fence back there. And that's so that I don't have to squish the rock up against the building. So slide you forward a bit. Give you a little spin. No, I hate that. It doesn't look right. Let's put a second row in. And then have some of those on top as well. And they're going to stick out over the top, and this is going to be what breaks a lot of the sightline. You might be able to see like a little bit of roof when we're done actually making the staff area into something nice. But this is going to be our visual barrier for it. And then also I think these will be close enough that if we actually do get close enough for guests to start incurring like site penalties, that it's going to lower the duration of the negative effect that the buildings have on people anyway. Scatter a bunch of greenery around the bottom. Some dry bushes now. Elevate these up a little bit. Make it look like it's kind of growing out of the rocks a bit. It's finding footholds in the desert stone. Sometimes unsuccessfully. And maybe frame it with a couple small trees. Quiver tree 2? Yeah, quiver tree 2 will do. It's not oppressively big. And it also kind of gives, I guess, a little bit of shade here, maybe. And then how about a little bit of trinkets to close things out here. Couple small red rocks on the ground. I think that is... Oh, actually, that's really cool. I don't like that these trees duplicate, though. We'll leave those here. What are you, a coconut palm? Grab me a different kind of coconut palm. Nothing big. This is actually a really neat little, like, plaza. So you're coming down this path. I'll probably touch that up a little bit. Come down here like, oh, what's this? That's probably wider than it needs to be. Come down here. You can see a hint of the camels through there. We might fix that later, we might not. You come over here, you're like, whoa. Addax habitat. Come over here, you're like, whoa. Scimitar-Horned Oryx habitat. I like this. We could maybe... Oh. Okay, look, I don't want to, I don't want to decorate guest paths yet, and also we are at 2.5 hours, but indulge me while I do one last thing. Because we did finish the African theme. Is that the one you want? It's not that one, it's too tall. I think this is the one you want. You want this to come out of the rock like this. And you want this to come out of the rock like this. And then you want to copy them along just a little bit. like that, so that they're roughly equidistant. Same thing with you. Add in the extra support that they would need to actually work there. You probably need one here as well. Yeah. And here. And then shade cloths. Like this. Wait, those aren't even aligned. What the heck? That's also extremely not on the world axis game. Oh, maybe it is. No, because you have it rotated wrong. There you go. So they actually need to go about there. And then we put the beams in. Yeah. Yeah, roughly, I would say. And then make sure that it actually connects here at the bottom. It's not quite into the ground. There you go. Line this one up. That's not exactly like that. Rotate it a little bit. And then slide it. That'll do. And then one here. And then one more down here. Oh, put benches under these. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Bring you up just a little bit. Bring you up just a little bit. Bring you up just a little bit. These, I guess, don't need to come that far out now that I look at them. Like, they can just connect here. And if I duplicate them, they should stay mostly agreeable. You're on the grid. Well, not on the grid, but like you're where you need to be. Maybe just on one side? And then it's like funky and asymmetric. Yeah, let's do on one side for now. Also, because I gotta wrap up and go get dinner. And do some other things with my night. We will eventually do an entire episode that is focused on just detailing around the park, catching things that we missed, filling in other like miscellaneous gaps and things like that. So this isn't like the only time we're ever going to do pedestrian detailing. But I do think this is the last time we're probably going to look at this area for a while, so it's nice to get a few little things out of the way, add a little bit of scenery, make it look kind of nice and interesting, and we will end up doing a lot more of that. We can make like a little plaza here. Obviously, we've got this to take care of, this to take care of, all of this to take care of. But that is basically all the time that I have for today. So we're going to run this clock down, take a look at fennec foxes. We do have them available. Give me a male and a female. I don't remember how many we need. Why can't you find a staff room with space? Because it's full. We need a second staff room. So this square here is eventually going to be old keeper hut. What do you mean you're obstructed? Oh, you're mad that the path is there. I can fix that. You got any complaints now? So this 4x4 is going to be keeper hut. This will be a 4x4 large staff room eventually. Obviously, though, we don't need a large staff room now. You are definitely not angle snapping. Right. Are you aware of this? Can I, if I do use T-junction, does that fix it? No, you just want to slide all over the place. It's going to lead to more obstruction headaches in the future, but we can deal. And it gives us the extra keeper space that we need. Take me to my fennec foxes, send these to quarantine. Locational item placed too far away from target. What do you... Oh, it's for the Addax Oryx. There we go. Oh, I need to decorate this too. I need a little bit of grass in here. I don't want to leave it half... Yeah, you know what? I can leave it half done. I'm going to do a little bit of stuff in between this episode and next one, like we did over here, where I just did some tidying up on this frame. I'm going to do a little bit of decorating here just to kind of complete this area because it's not quite fully filled in. And then we will also get the fennec foxes situated here. I'll give them a water feeder, I'll give them a food feeder, and that's going to be their life for a little while until we actually get around to decorating their habitat. But for now, that's Scimitar-Horned Oryx done. We have a few more things to unlock for them as far as vet research is concerned, but now that we've doubled up on our veterinarians, we should be moving through that research a lot faster. And we also have a food court to make over here that people are already trying to explore. And a couple other tasks to take care of as well. There is always something that is going to need to be done in here, especially with our budget constraints such as they are. We've burned through a ton of money like it's nothing. But fundamentally, this is a profitable zoo, and eventually we'll make it back. If you want to catch the next time that we work on Empirical Sahara here, I would strongly recommend that you subscribe to the channel and you turn on the notification bell so that you see when new episodes go out. And if you have any suggestions about the way that we put together the Scimitar-Horned Oryx habitat, or you have suggestions for what we do in the zoo in the future, why don't you leave me a comment and let me know. But until then, I've been Chef, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.